welcome to Miss Martin Muses. Welcome to Miss Martin Muses. You were amused by that, aren't you?
Yes.
And the pub crawl,
Yeah.
where we talk about anything and everything. And tonight, if you are in the future, we have gone across the pond to the east side of London to the Queen Vic with the Mega Geek.
Yeah, cheers.
You weren't expecting the Queen Vic to pop up at you like
No,
that, were you?
no, I wasn't. In fact, right, there was a Queen Vic where I used to live. It got burnt down though. Somebody burnt it down. But Queen Vic is very famous, obviously, because of EastEnders, because the pub that they have in the show is called the Queen Vic. So there you go.
Yeah, I was excited when you chose it. I'm like, that is so awesome. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. But of course, and you are a native Londoner. I don't know if you're an Eastender, but
I'm a South London. I'm from South London. Yeah, South. Yeah.
All right. Well, there we go.
Yeah.
Well, and as we all know, or maybe if you don't know, we have the Mega Geek. He is across the pond. He is obviously a Brit, but also he is a filmmaker. And I wanted you to maybe take some time to maybe introduce yourself, what you do, where we can find you, and then tell me your background in films.
Yeah, I am a filmmaker. I would like to say I'm a filmmaker. My channel is the Rebecca Girl channel. I made a web series that was quite successful. Not successful as in, really successful, but successful in an underground sort of way. Won loads of awards. It's a YouTube channel. And I've made feature films as well. I've made 5 in my 20 years experience in the independent sector. And some of them are on my channel as well. I used to work in post production, and suddenly just went into making movies and TV stuff, and that's where I am at present, right there, making TV stuff. Well, actually doing corporate videos to supplement my dream of actually creating and doing, making dramas. So there you go. That's me in a nutshell.
Yeah. So are you filming Rebecca Gold right now? I thought you might be.
I am. Yes. So basically, okay, right. So I know everything there is to know about making low budget movies and shorts and stuff like that. I've done it multiple times, and so I got really tired of doing that. so I decided, right. So I'm going to make, if I'm going to do Rebecca Gold season 2, I'm just going to write something and just not think about the money. So I wrote it. And I thought, so how the hell am I going to shoot this? Because I don't have any money. Mm-hmm. So I thought to myself, okay, well, I'll do it in spurts, right? So I spoke to all the actors and people and stuff like that. And so this is how I'm doing it. I'm saying to them, look, I will dance around you. So I'll pick a day where we can shoot. You tell me whether you can shoot on that day so that I don't interrupt your money flow that's coming in. Because it's pretty unfair if I, demand that you're here and you'll miss out on the job and stuff like that. So that's the way I'm doing it. I've shot about 3/4 of it so far, and I'm just like, because usually you do a budget and you do a schedule, but I've done none of that. Absolutely none. I've gone right. I'm going to shoot it. I don't care. Right, whatever money I've got presently, I'm going to shoot it with that. And then if I don't complete that scene, then they're going to come back and we'll complete it. And that's the way I'm doing it now. I'm going, throwing caution to the wind. I'm fully aware that I might not complete it because an actor might die or dye their hair, you know what I mean? Or I don't know, or just because then nobody's under contract, or just like say, I don't want to do it anymore and there's nothing I can do about it. Do you know what I mean? So I've cautioned to the wind. And I've said to all the actors, I said, look, I'm having faith in humanity here. I'm having faith in you guys that you're not going to turn around and say, I don't want to do it anymore because you've made me a promise without written contract. Well, there is a written contract. There's a contract that they've written so that I can use their images. You know what I mean? You have that
disclaimer.
Contract.
Yeah, you
exactly.
have to do that. Yeah.
Yes, I have that. But they can stop anytime they want. So I said to them, look, I'm going to have faith in you, that you will continue until it's finished. And they've all been pretty good, so far. But as I said, right, I'm just tired of talking to people about finding money. I'm really tired. I've spoken to so many people in my career asking them for money, this, that, the other, and it's always the same answer. If you're not in the circle, if you're not in the circle of rich people, you ain't getting anything. So I've just got fed up with that and thought, you know what, I'm not going to rely
Mhm.
on that, because that's a huge excuse why you don't create or shoot something. It's like saying, I'm not going to be a painter ever again because I can't afford the paints. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
Mhm.
I've got to find a way to avoid to afford the paints and the canvas, and to apply your talent. So that's the way I see it. Look, money is the thing that's stopping me from creating something on screen. There's got to be a way finding money, and so I found a way, and so I'm doing it this way basically.
Hmm.
So so that's the journey I'm on at the moment. Um, as I said, I'm not really scared of failing anymore, because Warner Brothers is not sponsoring me. I don't have to answer to anyone.
Yeah.
You know, the actors are really nice. They come and they do what I tell them and stuff like that. The crew's not consistent, obviously, because if somebody can't work on that day, we pull in somebody else and stuff like that. The way I see it, I'm giving them something, they're giving me something back. It's like a trade. So that's the way I'm doing it, and I don't think anyone has done it this way before. I think some people have, but I'm, it's a huge risk on my part, because I'm spending money and I don't even know whether I'm going to complete it or not. But it's somebody said to me, I think it was Jim Carrey that said, you can have hope and walk through fire, but if you have faith, you can jump over that fire. So
Ooh,
I'm basically relying on faith, on completing this.
nice.
There you go. There you go.
Well,
That's what I'm
well,
up to.
well, hey, and I did have a chance to interview along with you way back in the day one of the actors from
Yeah,
the Star, and
yeah.
she was lovely. She was awesome.
Yeah, she's nice, but she decided not to do this one.
Oh,
So that was, as I'm saying, there's lots of stumbling blocks of me trying to complete this. One of them was Katie dropping out,
mm,
for reasons basically. I mean, to me it was a very silly reason to not be part of this. We're still friends. It's not like we don't talk to each other. We do talk to us. I saw her a couple of months ago.
mhm.
you know I mean, her life's moving on. She's got a new boyfriend. She's moved in, she's got a mortgage, blah blah blah. She's doing loads of adverts and stuff like that. But for me personally, I don't think she'll mind me saying it, because I've actually said it to her. I think it's a huge mistake that she's not coming on for season 2, because it's a great role. Actresses don't get this kind of role anymore. And also, it's not a Mary Sue role either. So there you go. So there
Oh,
you go. So
I loved it. So
anyway,
what have you
mm.
done? Did you recast her?
Yeah, I recast. I recast. It's if you go on the Rebecca Gold channel, you'll see we have a prologue, a 7-minute prologue introducing the new actress playing Rebecca. So that's who's going to be playing Rebecca going forward. It's interesting because I tried casting someone that actually looked like Katie, so it wouldn't be too much of a you know a jog, I guess. But couldn't find anyone that had the acting chops. I found Ella, who's actually taken over, and she's blonde. So,
No.
and I said, "You want to dye your hair?" No. I'm like,
No.
okay. So, it's just the audience have to accept that this is Rebecca now, and the story continues. So that's why we did the prologue. We did the prologue, introducing a new character in the prologue. So the prologue is basically, she's been interviewed by this new character about the events of season 1. They're trying to find out, or interrogated, by the way. It's not interviewed, interrogated. So that's I don't know if you've seen it, but so that's the yeah.
Well, no, that's good. As someone that
Mm,
has watched soap operas for a great deal of my life, American ones,
mm,
you get used to recasts. It just happens. Like one day they'll be like, the part of Bo Brady is being played by someone completely different.
yeah,
It's just the way of the beast.
yeah,
Well, I want to now go back into the past,
mm,
into little Mega Geek, little Ian.
yeah.
What's your story with films?
Um, so I think I've told you this story before. I'm not really sure if I've told you this story before. So how I got into movies was that uh, okay, let's start from the beginning, I guess. In England, right? In America, they say, come to America, anything can happen, your dreams will come true. If you work
Mhm,
hard enough, you can achieve anything, which is that's a good thing to have in your mind. But in England, it's different. It's the society's divided by a class system. So you have working class, you have middle class, and you have upper class. So that's what it's divided by. And unfortunately, anything to do with the arts is heavily uh, um, weighed in with middle class and upper class people.
mhm,
So if you're working class, it's kind of really hard to get into the business. But some people have, though. Like Alan Parker, he was working class, and Ridley Scott was working class as well. So they got into the industry. Um, you know, I don't know how, but they did. But for the majority of people, it's hard to actually find money, because it's a lot of money in those days. You have to, if you wanted to make contacts, you have to go to film school, and to go to film school, you have to cough up a lot of money to go to film school. Do you know what I mean?
mhm.
So it's like trying
Yeah.
to go to university. You have to have money to go to university, and that's why a lot of people don't go in this country, because you go to university and you owe the government crap loads of money. It's like, what's that all about?
Mhm,
You you go there, you take a loan, and you come out, you're still paying off the loan. For what, for the next 17 years or some nonsense like that. So it's a class thing. So I never went to film school ever, because I couldn't afford it. And so what happened was that I was unemployed for a very long time when I came out of secondary school, and I tried so hard to get into the industry, writing letters. In those days, you had to write letters. You couldn't write email because there was no such thing as emails. Don't know if you
mhm.
remember that.
I remember that, I
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah, writing letters, get some stamps, put them on the envelopes and posting them, waiting for weeks on end, see if you can get any kind of response from anyone. Normally not getting anything, getting despondence. You have to find money, so you end up working in some horrible store which you hate. You know what I mean? You do
Mhm.
that every day. So I did that for a long time, and then I actually got a job. No, the government had this. No, I actually lost my job, and I had to sign on. So I had to get money from the government. The government's tip kind of thing.
The dole?
The doll, that's the one.
Mhm.
So I started doing it, but then the government had a course called photography and video course for poor people, which I thought was great. So I took that, and I learnt a bit about that, and I got a job running for a post production company. Um, which is, I don't know if you know what post production is. Post production is after everything's been shot, it goes to this place and they edit it and they put graphics on it and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
that's what post is. It's after the actual production, post production. So I got a job as a runner there, and I worked there for 4 years. And then because I could draw, they 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 said to me, "Oh, Ian, do you want to go into the graphics department?"
Oh
And
my
I thought it
goodness.
was better than running, so I went to the graphics department. I did graphics for Top of the Pops. There's this big thing called Top of the Pops, and the football. When the name comes on screen, I did all that stuff. And then,
No way, because I used to watch Top of the Pops. It was on the Thursday nights.
yeah, so I used to do. When Duran Duran was on, there was a machine called the Cipher, and in those days it's like this big machine, heavy machine. We had to take it from the office, wheel it into this van, drive all the way down to Euston where they shop Top of the Pops, plonk it out, connect it to their server, whatever, and then yeah, we'll create all the names and stuff. When they say Q name, I'd press a switch and the name would come up on the screen.
Oh
Duran
my
Duran, that kind of thing. So I did that for 2 years. And football, used to do a lot of football as well. And then one day I was sitting there because I got paid quite a lot of money for the 80s. And then I realized this is not what I want to do. I cannot keep going down this avenue. I mean, I did that job, and people kept giving me work, and it was great. And I had a lot of money, and I went on holiday and stuff. But I knew it was a trap, because if I'd stayed there, then I've been neglecting what I believe is what my true gift is, which is writing and directing and stuff like that. So I decided to quit my job. When I quit my job, everybody was puzzled, including my parents.
Oh, I
They're
bet
like,
they were thrilled.
they weren't thrilled at all. They were like, they were like, "Why did you quit your job?" I'm like, "Well, I want to direct." And I was like, "Have you got anything lined up?" No. And they were like really peed. So I quit, and then I was unemployed for 5 years.
Oh my god.
I tried so hard to you know, just I mean, I tried really really hard. But the reason why I wanted to become a director is because I saw a film in it was the year was 1977, and I saw a film. It was called Star Wars, and I saw Star Wars. I don't know if you heard of it.
Oh, yes, I've heard of it.
I saw Star Wars, and I was convinced I wanted to do visual effects. But that very same year, Close Encounters came out in September. I went to see Close Encounters, and suddenly I realized this is what I was born to do, which is to write and direct, like Steven Spielberg. And so when I quit my job, that's what I tried to do. And so I met up with a friend named Julian, who's passed away now. And I said to him, well, he was in the same boat as me. Um, and I said to him, well, let's make a movie. And he said, well, how are we going to make a movie? We don't have any money. And I said, there's got to be a way of making, getting some money to make a movie. And so we sat down, we were trying to think of things, and other friends joined us. We'd have this like meeting in a pub, would you believe?
Oh,
And it wasn't
it wasn't the
it wasn't the Queen Vic. So we used to meet in a pub every Thursday, all of us. We're all film fans and we're all working class, and we used to sit there and we like trying to brainstorm after 10 pints. And so Julian said, look, this is a pipe dream. There's nothing we can do. And I said, well, there's got to be a way we can do it, right?
Mhm.
And so one day we were talking, and so he said, oh, look, we should put an advert in a newspaper asking for money. So we investigated that, and it was like £1,000 to put in advert in one of the top newspapers. We didn't have the money. And so I can't remember if it was him or me. There's a magazine called Loot, which is so basically in those days, Loot is a magazine. It's kind of like eBay, where you advertise for if you have a flat and you have a room and you want to share that room, you can put an advert in Loot to basically say, I've got a spare room, this is how much it's going to cost for the rent, contact me. That kind of, remember the old days when they used to put cards in windows,
Oh,
shop
yeah.
windows. But this was a magazine that did that, right? And it was free. So we decided, okay, well, let's put an advert. Yeah,
Look
let's
who's
put.
here.
Yeah, hi, Mr. Brown.
Hello, Mr. Brown.
Yeah. So I said, let's put an advert in Loot, and then let's see what kind of response we get. I think it might have been Julian that came up with the idea. So we put an advert in Loot, and the phone didn't stop ringing. It was one weekend, the phone just kept ringing. And in those days, there was no mobile phones. It was just an ordinary phone, and the phone just kept ringing and ringing and ringing. And
Mhm.
the way we sold it, to cut a long story short, we said, you can give us £1,000, you can give BBC £1,000 and learn nothing on their courses, or you can give us £1,000, we'll throw you in the deep end, and you can learn that way.
Hmm.
And 14 people said yes, and we had collected £14,000, and we shot our film on that £14,000. Film was called The Killing Zone. It's on the Rebecca Gold channel, and that was
Yes,
made.
I've seen that.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was made with £14,000, shot in 2 weeks. Would you believe?
Wow.
Um, shot on film. it was a nightmare. It really was a nightmare making that film. But I learned so much, and I made so many friends when I was making that. And it felt nice because we were all in the same boat. All of us were all unemployed. We all decided to make this film, and we were determined that we would complete it. And by some miracle, we completed it, and it got sold. And it kind of kick-started my career a bit. Um, and then, yeah, and that's how I got started, really.
Mhm.
But I've never been part of the TV and um, film industry. Never. I've never worked in that capacity. I've always been in the independent sector. I've always worked in the independent sector. A lot of people know me, but not enough to give me money to make a movie, if you know what I mean.
Oh,
So
for sure.
yeah, that's how I got started. So yeah, there you go. I'll
Wow.
take a sip of my coffee.
Yeah. So did you never actually received any formal training
No,
to
no.
be a director? You just learned it?
Well, when I was young, right, it's got to be something like with you with music, right?
Mhm.
So when I was young, okay, I can instinctively tell that a soap opera was shot in something completely different to a movie, but I couldn't understand why. I could tell. So if something's shot on video and it's a soap opera, it has that look, right?
Yeah.
And when I was like 13, 14, I could tell the difference. My mum couldn't tell the difference. My brothers couldn't tell. They're like, "Oh, what's the difference?" I'm like, "Can't you see that's different?" And they'd be like, "No, it's not. It's the same." So instinctively, and I couldn't even explain why I could tell the difference. Also, I could tell if something doesn't work, like a piece of dialogue or a transition or a pacing. Instinctively, that's what I knew. I could paint, right? I can draw. I instinctively know that if I'm drawing an apple and if I put it on the left hand side of my frame, that would unbalance it. And nobody taught me any of this. And my school was completely useless. I instinctively know that. I instinctively know how to compose a shot, but nobody ever taught me that. So it must be the same with you with music, right? So certain certain tunes or certain instruments give out a certain emotion, right? So I'm just trying to make you understand.
Yeah, no, no, I understand, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, to a certain degree, yes, but of course, you have to have technical training
yeah,
because you
yeah. Of
just can't
course.
get that by instinct. But no, I
Yeah.
understand what you mean, that that there is something about having a propensity to see things that others can't. And I'm that way with music and other things, and other people are that way with like sports or
Mm. Yeah,
um, visual art.
yeah. But I mean, that's what I'm saying. So the thing I've got in common, and I'm guessing here with you and people that I mean, what I'm really saying is I have talent.
Hmm.
I know that through my experience. I know that I can direct something right if you're having a shot list. I know I can do that.
Yeah.
Um, so when you've got something like that and you don't do anything about it, it seems like a huge waste. I mean, if you believe in God, which I do, and I don't know if you believe in God, but
What?
I believe. Sorry, hello.
How do you?
I know,
Wait,
I'm joking.
do you know me?
I know you, but it's for the people out there as well. But
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
I'm just saying that I'm just saying that if you believe that you have a talent, then the worst thing you can do is not do anything with it,
Mhm.
right? And I do know that that lives inside of me, and if it didn't, I wouldn't have carried on. I would have stopped dead, and
Yeah.
I would have been married now and have kids and stuff like that. But that is not who I am. Okay, and it's hard to explain, really. It really is. It's kind of thing inside of you, and a lot of people ignore it when they got talent. A lot of people, that's why it makes me feel sad when I work with actors and I meet an actor and he or she is really good, really good. I can sense how good they are. And then 6 years later, I see them and they're working in a shop or, they're married and they have kids. I mean, if that's where they want to go, that's where they want to go. I'm not judging them or anything, but it saddens me that the talent
Mhm.
is now got it's still there, but it's not being used, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
it really does make me sad. I'm not even saying that just to be clever or anything like that. It really does make me feel sad that someone with talent is not using their talent, which is what they were born to do. You know, so
Well,
with
it's
me, I can't ignore it. It's always been there. You know.
yeah, it's always something that's within you. Acting, of course, is so tricky because the
Mm.
competition is so high that maybe people have tried and they just can't get that break that they need.
Yeah.
Um,
But I mean, look, like when I was unemployed, somebody offered me this job. This is before you had to have proof that today, if you become a teacher, You have to have the proof that you're not this. You have to have qualifications and stuff like that. And in the beginning '80s, when I was trying to find a job, I'd made the Killing Zone, made a couple of made a Killing Zone, made a couple of headways and stuff like that. Still needed money though to move around, and I got offered this job in this teaching acting, would you believe, which I'd never done before.
Oh.
So they hired me because they saw the Killing Zone, and they said, I said, yeah. So basically, you will teach these students how to act, but also, you'll be shooting their final film at the end of the year. So I thought, okay, I'll get to direct again. Then that'd be quite cool. So there'll be all shorts and stuff like that. And I've never taught before in my life, right?
Oh
But
my
yet, and this is what I'm saying. Yeah, I knew how to do it
Mhm.
for some reason. So, but the thing is, though, they didn't. So I only was there for one term because they didn't like the way I did it. So,
Oh, no.
well, so the first thing I did, so I went in class, right? The thing is that I don't really get nervous when it comes to new people and stuff. I've met a lot of stars when I was doing post production, and they never really unnerved me at all. But anyway, so when I walked into this class, there was about, I think it was about 25 of them.
Mhm.
And they said, "Oh, this is Mr. Diaz. He'll be be teaching you acting." So I was sitting there because I never thought about it the night before. So I went in there. I was thinking, "What the hell am I going to do?"
Oh,
So
no.
I said to them, "Can you sit in a circle, please?" And they all sat in a circle. And I said, I was making up as I go along. And I said, "Well, if you all sit in a circle, if all of you look to your left, could you tell me the person on your left? Could you tell me if that person is a lead actor, right, a co-star, or an extra?"
Oh, dear.
So they all did that around, and I said, you have to be honest, right? Look at that person physically and tell me whether you see that person as a star or extra or a co-star or supporting actor, whatever. And they went round it, and yeah, obviously a lot of people said extra and stuff like that. But what I was trying to say to them was that you inside of you probably think you're Robert De Niro or as good looking as J Lo, but
Mhm.
are you sure that's the way people see you? So what I was teaching them was how other people see you. Once you know how other people see you, then you should, in theory, know what kind of parts that you should be going up for. There's no point in going up for, you know, uh, like a lead role if you don't look as heroic. There's no point going up for John McClane in Die Hard if you don't look, if you're overweight and do you know what I
Yeah.
mean, and bald or something like that. There's no point in doing that. What you have to do is find your own niche. That's what I was trying to teach them. A lot of students got upset by it.
Oh, I
and,
can understand, I can understand.
and reported it to the teacher. And so I was like, and the teacher said, "Yeah, you can't do that." I'm like, "Why can't you do that? I've been out there. I know there's nothing out there. I know that there's very little you can do if you're not in the class system." They couldn't get rid of me. They had to use me throughout the term, and then they get rid because I signed a contract with them, so
Yeah.
they couldn't get rid of me and stuff like that. So I was literally teaching them things that I experience. I mean, not necessarily as an actor, but as as trying to get work in the industry. And I was telling them, it's going to be really hard. That unless you have a mother that's working in industry, and I know this through bit experience.
Mhm.
And so, but the point I'm trying to make is that I instinctively knew what I had to do when I was teaching. Hello, Vex.
Oh, I was gonna say, well, hello, Vix,
Yeah.
Electronica Gaming. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Well, thank you for being here.
Yeah. I know Rex. But yeah, so that's so basically what I'm saying is that if people have talent, they should do their utmost. I mean, you can make a choice, right? If you fall in love, you know, that's it. Basically, game over. You've got to follow that because that's the most important thing in life, basically. But if you're not, and you're doing an ordinary job, and you have talent, you owe it to yourself to push forward. And also, right, don't use the excuse like you're going to fail. and that's the reason why you don't do, or the odds are against you. That's just stupid. Do you know what I mean? Because every day that comes is there's an opportunity. Every second there's an opportunity. You know what I mean? Every
Yeah.
hour there's an opportunity. You don't know what's going to happen in the next 2 seconds, let alone tomorrow. So you should always try to fulfill what you were born to do, because everybody has something that they were born to do. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So, but that's my point. Um,
No, and for sure, and I think that that's what, Mr. Brown's getting at here. I
mm,
want to make music, and I worked for 30 years straight in an
mm,
office, avoiding what I always wanted to do.
yeah,
Lockdown gave me the opportunity to give it a go.
yeah,
Well, there you are.
yeah.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's something that pushes you towards it. Do you know what I mean? But as I said, if you were born with that talent, you can't. It's like lying to yourself. If you tell someone a deliberate lie, yeah, you can convince yourself that it was true, but deep down in your heart, you know it was a lie. Do you know what I mean? Hello,
Yeah.
Matt.
Oh, hi. Well, hi. Welcome. Welcome. Good to see you. Some new faces here at Miss Merton Muses. Thank you
I know
all.
all these faces. Yeah,
They all
so
want to come to be
yeah,
hang out with the EastEnders.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I mean, that's my point. That's my point, is that you can't, if you were born to do music, you have to. Do you ever see that film? I can't remember. You must have seen this film with Richard Dreyfuss.
Oh, Mr. Holland's
That's
Opus.
it. You ever see that one?
Oh, I related far too
So
much
did
to that
I. So did
movie.
I. If you
Yeah.
like he wanted to be so, he wanted to be the best of the best, whatever. And then he realized that in his own area, in his own niche, do you know what I mean? That he could become what he always wanted to, but not in the way that he really wanted to, but it'll still be satisfying. It still will be, what he was born to do. And I think that was the message of the movie. I don't know if you remember the
Yeah.
movie.
Well, and then the whole
Mm.
idea that the students were his opus. They
Yes,
were his great work.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's the way I see it now. I mean, maybe it's me dodging a bullet, because if I did make it in Hollywood and, lived out there and stuff like that, I might be just as bad as the people that are out there now. You know what I mean? So, but yeah,
Or you would have
that's,
gotten canceled.
yeah, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So,
You're
yeah,
everything wrong. You're a man, you're a Catholic,
absolutely.
you have some common sense, you tell people you're not very you tell people like it is.
Well, well, it's you have to be careful, because my dad was pretty strict. He used to say to me, um, he always used to say to me, you can't let people get away with anything. You've got to tell them straight, otherwise you'll lose the momentum. Don't let anyone do. He's like a. I hate to say this. My dad was like a real man. Do you know what I mean? He was,
I know what you mean. Yeah,
yeah,
old
very,
school.
yeah, old school, very physical and stuff. I remember, God bless his soul. I remember something that happened, and it always stuck in my memory. I don't know if you just indulge me for a
Sure,
minute
go
or
ahead.
so. My dad used to work in a furniture store, and he used to be like 5 minutes away from my school. So when I used to go to school, I used to walk back and he used to go into the furniture store, and my dad used to make me a cup of tea. And he'd say, how's school and all that rubbish. And, we used to sit there talk
Mhm.
and eat biscuits. And then we used to go home, and then he used to come home later. One day I went in there, and there was this really snooty guy that was wandering around the shop. And he walked up, and I was having tea with my dad, and he walked up to my dad and he said, "Are you Mr. Diaz?" My dad said, "Yes." And he said, "My name is Mr. Humphreys. I would like a word with you, sir." And so my dad stood up and they walked off, and I could hear what they were saying. And this guy was saying, "I'm the aerial manager of," because Quartz, there was a store called Quartz. That's what Dad used to work for. And he's like, I'm the aerial manager, and I'm shocked of the window displays, And he kept going on about how bad the window displays was, and he was like really having a go at my dad and stuff
Oh
like
my
that. And my
gosh.
dad went, after he ranted for 5 minutes, my dad went, "Are you finished?" And the guy goes, "Excuse me," and my dad went, "Well, I'm the manager of this store." And he said, "And I will do what I think is right." And he says, "If you got a problem with that, then basically tell head office." And he said, "The next time you come in here and shout at me in front of my son, I am going to hit you. Now get out of my store."
Oh,
And the guy said, "How dare you?" and my dad said, "I do, dear." Right.
Ah!
And he took, so my dad gave him that look that he gives us when, he wants us to do stuff, and the bloke just took 2 steps back and scuttled out of the store. And so when my dad come home, I said to Dad, I can't remember, I was 15 or something like that at the time, and I said, "Dad," I said, "you could have got fired."
Mhm.
And Dad said to me, he says, "The one thing you got to understand is if you're right, then it doesn't matter what anyone says to you, right? If they fire you, it doesn't matter. You're still right. But if you're wrong, you should say you're sorry." And that man was wrong, right? And I don't
Mhm.
care what happens to me now. I will tell him that he's wrong. I will not kneel to anyone unless I'm wrong. And that's the one thing I've learned from my dad.
Yeah.
The one and only thing that I learned from my dad, that if you're right, then you shouldn't kneel. If you're wrong, yes. If you're wrong, then yes, say you're sorry. But if you're right, that's a hell of a thing. And I guess my dad was right. I guess, I don't know.
Yeah.
So there, but the thing is, though, my dad used to treat everyone like that, and in life, I discovered that people are different. They're not all the same. Like bottles of water, some bottles will have be half full or totally full or whatever. Everyone's got a different thing inside them, so you have to be careful when you can't blurt out stuff at people because you'll hurt them. Do you know what I mean? Depending on how
Yeah.
strong they're inside, you got to make a judgment call on how much you know those people before you can actually talk to them straight. Do you know what I mean? Because you
Yeah,
don't
there
really want to hurt them.
yeah, like, if someone is sensitive, or say someone's mother is in the hospital dying or something,
Yeah,
that's not the time
yeah,
that you need to be prudent and you need to be kind.
yeah. Yeah, but my dad was never that way. My dad was, he was very confrontational. He was, my dad was born in Venezuela, but he lived mostly in Trinidad, and in those days, everyone was, tough love and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
my dad always say to me, "Don't take any crap from anyone," blah blah blah. But I think sometimes you have to, depending on the situation, and you can't treat everyone the same because everyone's different. So you got to measure it. You got to look at the person, you know, and then like sometimes I remember once I told someone something with no uncertain terms, and then later I found out that person cried because of what I said. So you don't feel good that you've done that. Do you know what I mean? So you got to
Yeah.
be careful with how you treat people. Even if they're bad to you, got to be careful. So hey, Brian.
Yeah, I was gonna say, not Brian. Aye, aye. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. Am I talking too much?
No,
Anyway.
no, that's why you're here.
Oh,
That's what we
okay.
do at pub. Remember,
Pub crawl.
we're on a pub crawl. We're on our third, fourth. Wait, you're the third bar we've been at, so tongues are gonna start to wag.
Right.
No, I love it. I love it every little bit here, and I am the kind of person that will cry.
Mm,
because that's why you won't often see me behaving in a certain way, if you will, online or even in real life, because I know I can't handle it. And if you can't handle it, if what do they say? Don't dish it out if you can't take it. I
yeah.
can't take it. It takes something very strong for me to respond in a very strong way, and I will. And if you're I always have to have a very good reason for it, because life's too short.
Yeah.
But yeah, if my triggers are, well, if someone lies to me, and if someone is rude, especially
Mm,
rude to someone that can't fight back,
yeah.
that just, oh boy, that just gets me up.
Mm.
Makes
But
me go crazy.
when the first thing I ever directed was Killing Zone, and I was like James Cameron on that because I was
Oh my
so
gosh.
determined. Yeah, I was so determined to get that film made. I was, failure was not an option for me in
Yeah.
those days. It really wasn't because I was unemployed. Halfway through the film, I had to go and sign on, on the
Uh-huh.
dole and then get driven back. But we had to give an example. So we were shooting this film. And we had a schedule, but we were running late on the schedule because I didn't realize how long it would take to shoot on film because I'd never shot on film before, never shot anything before, in fact.
Mhm.
Just read a lot of stuff and looked at TV, and that's how I learnt. But we were so we were meant to finish at 6 in the evening on one day, but we finished at 4 in the morning, and
Oh,
that's how most days were, because obviously we were just learning. But we had this first. She used to work for the. She used well. She I think she still worked for the BBC. She was first in. She had more experience than me, and then she pulled me aside and she said, "Ian, we've got to stop." And I said, "Why?" And she goes, "Because look, at 6 o'clock, everybody's getting tired, and people are just not going to give you their best." So I said to her, "Well, this is the last day we're in this location. We've got to get everything shot, otherwise this film is not going to be completed." And she said, "No, Ian, you can't do that. You've got to stop now. You've got to talk to them and stop now." And I said, "Do you have the money for us to come back to this location and reshoot?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Well, I'm going to carry on shooting." And so she stormed off and didn't come back.
oh,
And
yeah.
there were and before that, because she was so peed off with me, she started talking to the crew and stuff like that, trying to get them to be against me. And I heard this through somebody else. So I was like, God, what a cow. So I decided to get on a apple crate
Mhm.
and stand up, and I said, "Everybody, can you listen to me for a second?" So the crew was like, it must have been about almost 100 strong. Okay, all these people working for nothing. So I got up on this crate and I said, "Can everybody listen to me for a second?" I said, "Look," and I spoke to my DOP and the cameraman and the actors and stuff. I explained the situation, and then I had to speak to the crew, and I said to everybody, "Look, we're running late. If people don't want to work, can they please leave now and come back tomorrow if they want to? But we're going to carry on. It's up to you." And then everybody decided to stay.
Huh.
They
Well,
all decided to stay. And my Frank, who's one of the grips, he got his credit card out and he brought all these beers in and stuff like that. So we finished at 4 in the morning, and the next day it was we had to be on set for 10. So
oh my
so
gosh.
you know what I mean. So we were drinking. But we got it all completed. And then I had to promote one of my runners to take over this girl from the BBC to first, and he never first before in his life. And I said, "Don't worry, we'll learn as we go along." Do you know what I mean? And so that's the point I'm trying to make. The point, it's we really didn't stand a chance. Everybody said to me that we didn't stand. I remember we went to this guy named Chris Jones, who is kind of like a big deal in England at the time. We went to him and we said to him, "We're going to make this film. We have 2 weeks schedule, and we've only got £14,000." And he said to us, "Don't do it." He goes, "You won't complete it. Just don't do it." and
Yeah.
we said, "Okay," and we left. And I said to Julian, "What do you reckon?" Julian goes, "Let's do it." It's just to do it. And I tell you what, we were on the wings of angels, because I remember on the last day we were trying to pack this van up with all the equipment, because you had to take the equipment back to the place where we hired the equipment, and we found a film can in the back of the vans, and it was one. It was one of the cans. It was one of the very first. It was the can that we shot on the very first day.
Oh my
It
gosh.
was in there all the time, and so we sent it to the lab and it got processed. But that's how bad we all were. It was ridiculous. But as I said, by some miracle, it was completed. And it was done to the best of our ability. Because in those days, you couldn't see what was being shot. You couldn't see what was being shot because you were shooting on a film. Once the film was shot, you move on to the next scene. It's not like video. You can see actually what you're shooting. You have we had to rely on the cameraman to tell us that was a good shot, and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So, so yeah, I mean, as I say, it's a shame really, because we were making it at the same time as Lock Stock, or more or less the same time as Lock Stock. And Lock Stock, that film was made with people from Cambridge and stuff like that, and the papers all over it. You know, inexperienced people make a movie and stuff like that. And they weren't really the real McCoy. We were, basically,
Uh,
because none of us came from Cambridge. None of us had any experience, but they did. I mean, they were lying, obviously, to get the story out in the newspaper and stuff like that. But we'd seem to be overlooked what we achieved was nothing close but a miracle, and it's a shame really that we didn't get celebrated for that, because that was the time when people were making independent films, and independent films were a big thing. You had Clerks, you had Reservoir Dogs, you had Blair Witch Project at the time as well. So
Yeah.
it was a time of the independent filmmakers. But somehow I stayed under the radar.
So
So there
whatever
you
came
go.
of the film, I mean, did it have a debut? Was it shown
But the Killing
anywhere?
Zone,
Yeah.
yeah, the Killing Zone was the killing. By some miracle, we completed it. One of the people that said yes to giving us money was a lawyer, a really nice guy named Mark. He came to one of the meetings, and and I was saying to Julian, "Who's this guy?" He had a suit and everything. I was like, "Who is this guy?" And I went up to him and said, "I'm Ian. How's it going?" He goes, "Oh, I'm Mark." Yeah. And I said, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm a lawyer." I was like, "Oh, okay." And he sorted out the paperwork and all that for us and stuff like that. It was really nice. And he came to Cannes with us, with the film and stuff, and it got picked up in Cannes. We were really amazed that it got picked up. We had a screening at Cannes and nobody turned up. It's
Oh
like
no.
one person in the back, one person in the back. I think there's one person and two people in the front that watched it. And then, me and Julian came out and we were like, oh, we're never going to sell this film. And as we were walking out, this guy came up to us and he said, "Oh, I love your film." It was like, I don't know, he had a cigar in his hand. I thought, oh God, there we go. And he goes, "I want to buy that film." And I was like, no, 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 no. And he's like, "I'll offer you this amount." I was like, "No, that's too small." And then we kept walking, and he goes, "I'll offer you this." And then he just offered us the amount, like, I think it was like 10 times the amount, how much the film cost.
Oh.
And Julian went, "Okay." So we sold it to him, which we shouldn't have really, because we should have, because we didn't know. It was our first experience at Cannes. We didn't know. We could have got a better deal. We would have never have got the money he was offering though, but we could have went with Lionsgate or something like that. But because this guy was offering us money and he was willing to write us a check for like 10 times the amount that cost of the film, we thought we might as well just take it now. When are we going to get a chance? Lionsgate or some big company could take it on, and we'll never see any money. I'll take it on, and whatever. But this is a chance for us to actually make our money back 10 times. So we did it, but we didn't realize by doing that we were devaluating the movie, if you know what I mean.
Ah.
So because we didn't know any better, nobody was telling us this is how you do it, whatever. So we sold it, and it ended up on DVD and a Blu-ray and a VHS at the
Mhm.
time. So it was everywhere. It was in HMV and stuff like that, and so yeah, it did well. It just didn't do anything for me. That's all. It really
Yeah.
didn't really project me, because I think most of the focus was on Blair Witch and Lock Stock, I think, at the time. I mean, when you got someone like Sting, and he's the one that's putting money into your film, you're not gonna the paper's not gonna focus on these working class people from Battersea. Are they?
Yeah.
Are they? They're going to be focusing on, look, Sting was involved in this movie, and you got Vinnie Jones, a football player. He was involved in this movie as well. So we didn't really stand a chance. We only had one star in our film. That was the girl from EastEnders, Nicola Stapleton. That's the only star we had in our movie. So, but she obviously doesn't sell. So that's it really. So, but anyway, that was the part of the journey that I've
Oh.
taken.
Well, wow. And without giving away any details, of
Mm.
course, are you employed now?
I'm yes, I am employed. I work for my boss is Canadian. He lives in Canada, and I work for my boss. And he's a lawyer, would you believe?
Mm.
And I direct. Um, I don't think I'll say it. Basically, I've signed something that I can't say what I direct, but I direct stuff. I do dramas for him that's linked with. Basically, he owns a university. He's part owner of a university, and I think it's not in Toronto. It's somewhere else in Canada, and we do what do you call it when you do when something happens in real life? You have to reconstruct it, reconstructions of
Oh yeah,
certain cases,
yeah,
and
like what they do on the true crime things.
yeah, yeah, and then he uses it as he gives it to the school, and they use it as a teaching tool to the students in in a lawyer school. So I've been doing that for quite a long time, but because some of the cases are sensitive, I'm not allowed to show it to anyone. I have to
Okay.
destroy all the stuff I've shot, and stuff like that. So, which is weird. Um, but it's been my lifeline for a very long time, and it's allowed
Mhm.
me to do other things. So that's exactly what I do for a living. I do other stuff as well, the usual corporate videos with people talking heads and stuff, talking
Mhm.
about Microsoft and all that nonsense where you fall asleep behind the camera because they're so boring. So I do that stuff as well to bring in the money and stuff. So the thing is, though, again, it's dragging me away from what I'm supposed to be doing. Like just like the post production um, job that I had. I knew I enjoyed it, but I knew I didn't belong there. And it's the same thing with this. But I don't know where to go from this point. I have to make money to survive. So,
Yeah,
I have to figure it out, you know.
for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
on the one hand, I certainly can understand about the creative part of you that wants more,
Mm.
but on the other, a lot of people aren't employed at all
Yeah.
in the industry, and you at least have been able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be, I'm not no spring chicken anymore.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm still moving. So I'm still
Yeah.
breathing. So
Yay.
and I said I can't really live if I'm not creating, whether it be writing or working with actors and stuff like that, or even setting up cameras and stuff like that. It's I actually believe it's what I was born to do. So it's a shame the rest of the world don't see it that way.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, I mean, I think people just got to do what they have to do to do what they were born to do. If they deem it important, of course, because there's nothing wrong with just being a mother or a dad or working a 9 to 5 job. There's nothing wrong with that. All I'm saying is that's not for me.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. So
No, understandable. You have to do what you're you have to follow your bliss, if, as they say. Now, you mentioned a little bit behind the scenes about some directing
mm.
situations, and and maybe a little bit about what's lacking in directing today. I didn't know if you wanted to expound upon that.
uh, yeah, I think the art of directing is being lost today. Especially in modern films. The art of writing is being lost today as well, judging by what Disney's coughing up,
Hmm.
and Marvel these days. It's bad. It's really bad. I mean, I don't know if you saw The Mandalorian.
No, oh gosh,
It's
I
just
watched the first season. I liked it. I'm
yeah,
not gonna lie, I liked the first season,
yeah. So did
but the
I.
more I learned about things
Mm,
and saw what was happening, and then the
yeah,
second season, bleh.
but I'm just in love with directing. That's my problem. Or if you
Mhm,
look at it as a problem, I see too much,
mhm,
unfortunately, when I watch movies. And I was trying to explain. So I was on Dan's channel, and he told me to pick a film to talk about, because we were talking about films. And I remember my dad saying to me I should watch this film called 12 Angry Men, which was made in, I think it was made in the 40s or the 50s. I can't
mhm.
remember. My dad always used to say to me, it's one of the best films ever made. And I was like, yeah, Dad, Star Wars, Dad. You know what I mean? And then a couple of months ago, I watched it and I was just blown away by how good that movie was. And I don't know if you know it, 12 Angry Men. No.
Yes, I'm familiar with it. I don't know if I've seen it, or definitely haven't seen it recently, but I've
Well,
heard a
just for
lot
the
about it.
and just for the people who don't know, basically it's about 12 men who they're the jury, and this guy, this boy is on trial for murder and murdering his dad, and they have to deliberate. So the judge says to the 12 men, go into that room and give me a verdict. It can't be split. You all have to agree on one verdict, for this to work. So they all go into a room and they talk about whether the guy's guilty or innocent and stuff like that. And Henry Fonda is in it. Now, it's not a Hitchcock film, and it's all set in one room. And Henry Fonda is the protagonist, and he believes he kind of thinks that the guy is innocent, and so that's what the film's about. It's about 12 men with their 12 views and what their views are based on and stuff like that. And it's so well directed. It's directed in such a way that you don't see films directed like this anymore. I'll try and explain why it's so good. So in those days, they used to take a complicated problem and make it simple, right? So the lowest common denominator can understand. Okay, so if you take a film of today about racism, okay, it's very complicated. The way they produce it in films, it's this, it's that, whatever. But there's this scene in 12 Angry Men where one of the men was talking about, because the guy's Hispanic, the guy that's on trial. And he went on, he was like, you don't know these people, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, spewing out his hate for the race and stuff like that. Not in a bad, not in a, none of them swear or anything like that, because that was the tone of the day. And the way the director showed that they were displeased in what he was saying, he didn't get one of the men to go up to him and slap him in the face or anything. He didn't get one of the men to say, you're a horrible person or anything. He didn't do any of that. He did something really simple. While the guy was talking about how much he didn't like that race, one man stood up and turned his back on him and looked out the window. And then another guy, and then another guy, and then another guy. And the guy that was spewing out all the rubbish, his energy depletes as he's talking when he sees everybody doing this. And he suddenly realizes what he's saying is not good for him or for anyone. And he doesn't break down, but he stops. And he stops. You can hear in his voice that he's realizing what he's literally saying. And to me that's directing in its purest sense, because what the director's using is the actors to actually put across a point.
Yeah.
In the movie, I don't know if I'm explaining this clearly to you.
Yeah, I know it's hard to put it into words, but no, that makes sense. And they didn't have someone start to preach or
Yeah, exactly. The story's basic, right? And the stuff that they talk about is basic, right? But it means the same thing. But in those days, it was very economical the way they directed. It's very economical the way they put a point across. Do you know what I mean? And it was very intelligent the way they directed in those days. Like, I'll give you another example in that film. When they all come in, all the people in the room, they have the shot inside of a closet, and the closet doors are open, and everybody puts their coats in there, and then they all sit around a table. And then at the ending, one of the jurors who was holding out for the guilty verdict, he was so stubborn. Even though the evidence was in front of him, he was holding out for the guilty verdict. He breaks down as well, because there was a reason why he was saying all that stuff, and we find out, right? I don't want to give it away. But at the ending, everybody's leaving the room. They've all come to the point where they find the guy, innocent, basically. And they're all leaving the room, and Henry Fonda's there, and he's looking at him, and he's all deflated. He's on the table. And as everybody takes their coats, Henry Fonda walks to the closet, takes his coat out, and gives it to him. And he puts his coat on, and he helps him off from his chair, and they both walk out the room. So subconsciously, what does that tell you? It tells you that there's no hard feelings here. This is something that he's got to face up to, and also he didn't take anything that he said was seriously. Henry Fonda's character didn't, because he was saying a lot of stuff back at him and stuff like that, but he didn't hold it against him. But just by giving him his coat, he's saying, this is okay, it's all right, you're fine, I don't hold anything against you. Rather than if it was shot today, there'll be some kind of huge dialogue about how wrong he was or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's a very simple way of showing something subconsciously without words. And I'm in love with that kind of direction. You see it in Hitchcock stuff, you see it in Spielberg stuff, you see it in Richard Donner's stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's just
Hmm.
those directors that those directors that have extreme talent. They could show you something without dialogue. They can show you something just with a movement of the camera. It will subconsciously tell you something about, and that's the kind of direction I like. I mean, there are other directors that use 9 cameras on something, and they can pick and choose in the in the editing room. But with good directors, they know exactly what they're doing, and with a camera movement, they can express an emotion,
Yeah.
or with what they get the actors here. And that's the kind of direction that's being lost in films today, in my opinion. I don't know
Yeah.
if you get what I'm saying, but
I get what you're saying. Yeah. Well, I definitely know that writing, well, and writing and directing also goes together. You
yeah,
mentioned a scene from the Close Encounters when the
yeah.
aircraft controllers. I didn't know if you would be. Yeah, I'm
Mm.
leery about showing any clips just
No, that's
because
all right. Yeah.
YouTube's so weird, but I didn't know if you wanted to describe it.
Um. Yeah. So one of the most, in my opinion, one of the most one of the best directed scenes in movie history. Well, I haven't seen every film, obviously. I've seen a lot, but this always sticks in my mind. The way Spielberg directed that scene, I do believe those people are not actors in that scene. I think they are real air traffic control people. I might be wrong about that, but the way he directs that scene is unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. I don't know whether it's the editor that put that together, or, but Spielberg is quite famous for the oneers. I don't know if you know a Spielberg oneer. Do you know what that means?
No.
Okay. Spielberg's not the only one to use oneers. A lot of directors did it. Orson Welles did it. Uh, I guess Brian De Palma does it quite a lot. So basically, a oneer means a shot, one unbroken shot that
Oh,
has loads of other shots within that one unbroken shot. Yeah.
okay.
So basically, if you start off with a wide shot and the camera moves into 2 people, and so now we're looking at a 2 shot with 2 people, and then within that shot, the camera moves to something else. So we're looking at 3 people. Do you know what I mean? So the shot isn't broken.
Okay,
It's
I
it's it's,
understand.
it's
I
un,
know what you mean. I just didn't
yeah.
know what it was called.
It's called a oneer basically. And in the 40s they used to do it a lot, and the 50s they used to do it a lot. There are loads of films that did it. They did it because it was economically and it was faster to shoot. So instead of doing multiple setups, they would try and do it all in one by moving the
Mhm.
camera. And so that's the origin of the oneer. Because in the 40s when they used to make those movies, what is it, Maltese Falcon, they were all cheap movies to shoot, the film noir. They used to shoot that way because it was faster to shoot it. And would believe it or not, Sam Spade and Casablanca and stuff like that, well, not Casablanca, but um those movies, Humphrey Bogart, they were all B pictures. And they had to figure out a way how to shoot things fast. And so that was one of the ways they shot things fast. I mean, I'll give you another example. Okay, right. So I think I've said this before in another live stream. Do you remember Raiders of the Lost Ark, right?
Oh, of course.
Okay, so do you remember when Marion is kidnapped and they put her in a basket? Do you remember that? They put
Oh, heck
Marion in a
yes.
basket.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Indy.
Indy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a scene in it where Harrison Ford's running around. He runs down a corridor. We see the basket behind him, and he turns around, he cuts through the crowd, and he's like, he's trying to find that. So he runs down one corridor, and we hear Indy, and he turns
Mhm.
around, and he runs towards the screen, and we have this big close up of his eyes, and we're wondering, you know, why have we got big close up of his eyes? And then we pull out, and we see loads of people with loads of different baskets in their hands. So
Oh.
that's called directing. So basically, you're one step ahead of the audience, right? So when it pulls out, you're like, "What the hell's he looking at?" And then we see what he's looking at. There's loads of baskets. He has to
Okay.
try and find which basket she's in, that kind of thing. This scene here, Close Encounters, it's an amazing scene because he has he has he has so basically that shot he has three people in one shot, and we're focusing on the black guy, but then all these people come into the shot. So basically what he's doing is he's this is kind of a one, but it isn't, if you know what I mean. This actual
Mhm.
shot itself, he's trying to get the expression of everyone that's in this shot within this shot. So normally, if Michael Bay's shooting it, he'll have six cameras. He'll have a close up of the guy with the glasses, maybe a close up of the other guy with the glasses, and maybe a wide shot, and maybe over the shoulder shot, maybe looking at the screen. Do you know what I mean? But
Mhm.
Spielberg, he's old fashioned, so he will do it in one, right? So he will
Yeah.
get everybody talking. Oh, mate, in this scene, people were talking over each other and stuff like that, and he was just it's just a beautiful thing to watch. This scene is so well directed. I can't explain how. The only way I can explain it is if I talk you through it while we're watching it, but
Yeah.
I can't do that. So I'll tell you another thing. Spielberg's one of my favorite directors, and I'll tell you another reason why I like him as well, is because he's really good at doing transitions as well.
Mhm.
So, did you watch The Last Crusade? Indiana
Yes.
Jones: The Last
Oh,
Crusade.
are you kidding me? I watched all of those in the cinema.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
I was in high school.
So you probably it goes over your head. You don't see it until it's pointed out. Like for instance, you remember that scene where young Indy has got the cross of Coronel, whatever it's called, the cross,
Yeah.
and the policeman comes in and he says, "Yeah, these guys try to steal it," and the policeman says, "Have you got it?" And then he gives it to the policeman, and then he turns around, and then the guy that were chasing him, they give it to them. And
Yeah.
so Indy, it was a big waste of time that Indy was trying to save the cross, and so the policeman leaves, and then the guy that was chasing him, who looks a bit like Indiana Jones with the hat, he says to him, "You lost today, kid, but you don't. It doesn't mean to say you have to like it." Then he takes his hat off his head and he puts it on young Indy, and he pushes the hat down, so the hat's down on the shot. And then when the hat raises up, it's Harrison Ford.
Mhm.
So that's a really good transition, and you don't
Yes.
really see that in today's movies. You don't.
No.
In the old days, they used to love transitioning from one point to the next, um, and Spielberg's really good at doing that. And I'll give you another example in Close Encounters. Bob Balaban, who plays Laughlin, he's in the desert, and they're talking to this old Mexican, and the Mexican has got like a sunburn on his face, and he's telling Francis Truffaut, who's another great director, by the way. He's saying to him, he saw the sun came out and sang to him. That's what he said. That's what he was saying in Spanish. And
Yeah.
Bob Balaban is translating because obviously Francis Truffaut is French. So he tells him that what the man is saying is the sun came out and it sang to him. And as they're talking, Bob Balaban takes
Mhm.
two, and it's like a huge sandstorm. He takes two steps back, right? And then he looks up into the sky and the sand covers him. And then it cuts to the radar screen in this scene here that you're seeing as the
Mhm.
radar goes across the screen. And it's such a wonderful transition between the sand covering the screen to the radar screen going up.
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, normies don't see this. They just watch the film and it's great. They can't understand why it's so good. It's because of these things subconsciously done in this movie. That's why it's great, because it lives inside of you, inside of your mind, but you just don't see it. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No, no, I know exactly what you mean, like, similar to with music. People
Mm.
will know a piece, of music is an amazing piece of music, but may not be able to articulate why,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
example.
exactly.
But,
Yeah.
like, I would be able to go, "Oh, well, don't you see that they did this, they did this, they did
Mm.
that?" And it's an art, and it's sad that, we don't really seem to see too much of that anymore, but then again, there's not movies that I even wanna see in the cinema very much anymore. Not worth going.
But it's the thing that I live for, though, because like when I see something like that, I'm like, oh god, I've got to imitate that.
Mhm. Yeah,
I've got to try and do that. But at the end of the day, when you're shooting something and it's low budget, you just don't have the time to do that. Because if you want to do a transition with a moving camera, that means tracks, or that means a gimbal, or that means, you know what I mean. And it's like
yeah.
9 times out of 10, you never have that stuff, so you just have to do what you can. But those, I mean, it's really sad I think I don't know if it's sad or not. It's like people are into football and sports and stuff like that, and they're crazy about that. This is what I'm crazy about. I'm crazy about
Mhm.
the art of directing, especially good directors like Stanley Kubrick with the carpet on the ground and little kid driving around in his little what is it, little bike, and as he turns the corner, there's those girls,
Oh
those
god.
scary
No,
girls,
thank you. No,
that
thank
kind
you.
of thing.
Yeah,
That's for me, that's pure
definitely.
directing. There's and in Psycho, everybody talks about the shower scene, but the scene that always gets me is when the detective goes into the house and he's going up the steps. And as he goes up the
Mhm.
steps, his face gets slashed with the knife. That always makes me jump. And
Yeah.
that's Hitchcock. Hitchcock was a master of doing that. Those are the kind of things that make that I always think is beautiful when it comes to art of directing. You know,
Gosh,
um,
yeah.
I don't. As I said, if you don't understand what I'm saying, then I'm sorry. I'm trying to explain it the best I can.
No, 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 you're doing a great
Mm,
job. You're doing a great job, and, uh, it's,
mm,
it's just the way things are, everything is bankrupt. There's a reason why we don't have good music being written right
yes,
now.
true.
We don't
That's
have
true.
good art, visual art. It
Mm,
it's everything across the board. Our architecture is garbage. The aesthetics, the beauty, the art, the craft of everything isn't there. And it just occurred to me, obviously I'm not making my living off of this, but if
mm,
you'll see me on Twitter, I'll sometimes feature my crochet. I like to crochet things
mm,
and, just make pretty things for around my house or make gifts for people. And, that's a way that maybe a person can create even just, in your own little circle
mm,
or no, but that's why I love what you're doing with your independent films, and you never know, we might be getting technology and all sorts of other stuff that will be able to enable someone like you to be able to make more movies.
well,
I don't know,
I think the
but
whole landscape of
who would
of
have
move.
thought
Mm,
30 that we
yeah.
could be doing what we're doing right now? If you wanted to be on TV, you had to go through, one of the 2 uh,
Mm,
television channels. Well, in
yeah.
Ireland, it was RTE 1 and 2,
Yeah.
and get invited to the studio, and they'd film, you get this interview, and, of course, only, famous people. Like, the idea that we could sit and do an interview like this because we wanted to,
Yeah.
it wasn't possible, so who knows?
But I mean, that's why it's called YouTube, right?
Yeah, yeah, precisely. Yeah,
Yeah.
Shieldwell Dragon says, "What intrigued me most about The Shining was the hotel itself. It was
Yeah.
beautiful and horribly monolithic at the same time. Not sure the story would work well in another location." No, the hotel was a character in that movie.
It was, and Stanley Kubrick, right? He was I remember seeing this interview, and there was always this thing about Stanley Kubrick shooting 72 times and all that rubbish. And he said that's not true. He said he's never shot a scene 72 times. He says sometimes he would shoot because the scene is not right with actors,
Mhm,
and then actors would exaggerate how many times he shot it. He says, but he's always aiming for excellence. But that's
mhm,
the thing with Hollywood directors and Hollywood filmmakers, is that they have more time than the independent
mhm,
filmmakers. I mean, Sam Raimi is a prime example of how talent can push through with incredible speed. I mean, that guy, he had two pieces of wood. He didn't even have a steady cam. Two
mhm.
pieces of wood stuck on a camera to do all those scenes going
Yeah,
towards the
and
uh,
look what he
the
was able to
thing.
do. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
look at
there,
yeah,
and, of course, as always, I encourage people to find your bliss, create, and share, and all that good stuff. As we're getting ready to wind down, we're gonna go into
mm,
our roll 7. Is there anything else you wanna say, maybe share, maybe some prospective filmmakers out there, any words of wisdom,
gold.
that you would like to give everyone in this pub?
I don't know. I just think that if you were born to do something and you know in your heart you're born to do something, I reckon you should keep doing it until you can't do it anymore.
Mhm,
Or yeah, of course, life gets in the way, as John Lennon says. Um, it does get in the way, but there's got to be another way of actually achieving something that you've always wanted to do, even if it's not giving you exactly what you want to do. There's got to be another type of way of doing something that gives you what you want to do. I've always wanted to create, right?
Hmm.
I'm not going to lie. It would be nice to be, to be recognized as a filmmaker and work for people like Channel 4 and stuff like that. It would be nice, but that's kind of, I don't think that's, well, I hope it happens, but the thing with me is that I'm actually creating, and yeah, I've got life in front of me, and there are lots of different things, pay the rent, pay this, whatever. But I always try and make it work, if you know what I
Hmm.
mean, even if it's just something small that I do. And I think with technology now, there's no excuse as a filmmaker. You can make stuff without any money. I just
Yeah.
chose the hard way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's great. Well, and you're also, well, both of us are from a different era where
Yeah.
uh, w- that filmmaking was only done on film, like we were saying. And if you wanted to take photographs, you had to take photographs
Yep.
and manually rewind your camera and then take it to a delivery.
Mm.
Dagnabbit, what do they call it? Developer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
wait, and then you get it a
Mm.
week later, and then you'd see if maybe you got a few good shots. It
Yeah.
it was a different time.
Yeah, also with music as well. I mean, in the old days, before the advent of Casio keyboard and stuff like, you had to learn how to read music.
Mhm.
If you learn how to read music and you learn how to play the piano, then you can compose something. But
Absolutely.
today, it's really easy for people. You can make a certain noise with a keyboard. There's really no excuse to actually create the orchestral sound. And there's really no excuse to create a tune either, because the technology is there. You can do it. You don't have to go through the things that, us old school people went through. So, there are ways of actually achieving something, that you really want to do. It's just that you got to find a way. That's all.
Mhm.
Mm,
Um, though to a certain degree, what I still love about classical music, which is
mm.
what I do,
Yeah.
is you can't fake it.
No, you
You
can't.
can't play a symphony. You can't conduct a symphony
Mm,
without knowing how to do it. You can't cut any corners. And even though I know what you're saying
mm.
about like the keyboard and all that, but nothing compares to the real thing. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I totally agree with you. I mean, I think what's his name? Danny Elfman, when he was asked to do the Batman soundtrack, he was like, "What?"
Mm,
He didn't know how to conduct an orchestra or anything like that. He didn't know any of that stuff, but
mhm.
he had to learn really fast. I mean, that's the story I read, because when Tim Burton came to him and he said, "All right, I'm doing this Batman film, I need you to compose some music for me," he's like, "What?"
Mhm.
Because I think he came from a band originally, didn't he, or something like that? Some kind of,
Yes, yeah, he didn't
yeah,
have the traditional background, and you do have the Danny Elfmans every now and then, but
yeah,
for the most part,
yeah,
I
yeah.
like, look at John Williams.
I love
He
John Williams.
Yes, he didn't just wake up and say, "Oh, yeah, I know how to do that." He was a classically trained musician, he was
Yeah.
a conductor, he had worked with symphonies, it just didn't co it just doesn't come out of,
Mm.
nowhere
Yeah.
where that talent is. So,
Yeah.
well, thank you so much for sharing this
No
wisdom.
worries.
Yeah.
Wisdom? Wouldn't call it wisdom.
Hey, it's wisdom, it's stuff I didn't know, and that's what I love about the pub crawl. I'm so glad I started this. I was encouraged to do this by Steeg, and so
Oh,
I
right.
I have to give credit where credit's due. He came up with the concept. My mother and I came up with the name, and he assisted me as well as my parents in
Oh,
this
that's
roll
nice.
7.
Mm.
Yes. So the tested questions, there are 20 questions, and then I roll a d20 and 7 times, and it'll come up with different questions. So these have been tested by a Norwegian and 2 parents of me. So, so I think it's worked out really nicely. And everyone in the chat, if you want to participate, of course you can. One more comment though. He does miss Shield Wild Dragons. I miss going to a nice pub and not the crap we have in America. A proper pub. Absolutely. Our pubs are garbage. All right, here we go. Here we go. First roll. All right, number 4.
Was the
All right.
roll.
Oh dear. Okay, Ian.
Mm.
What is the most annoying habit that other people have?
Other people have. This is not related to film or anything like that, is it? No. It's just something that I find annoying. Yes.
Oh, yes. This is just in general.
Oh,
This is anything.
just eating and clapping their mouth when they're eating. That kind of really irritates me.
Oh, you don't like the
Really irritate.
smacking? Yes.
No, I hate it. I hate it. Oh, and
Uh,
green food as well. For some reason, I don't like green food. Like, oh no, no, that's not true. I don't like eating in a green room. It makes me feel sick. I don't know why.
well, you learn something new every day. All right, roll the second roll. Where do you feel most out of place?
Oh, I feel out of place when I'm at a dinner party
Mm.
with people that have a lot of money. I've been to a few of them.
Oh, the
Always feel
posh
out of
British
place.
ones.
Yeah, definitely.
So
Anyway,
no dinner parties with King Charles for
no,
you.
he has invited me a couple of times, but no.
Oh, okay, there we are. Okay, what's the worst piece of advice you've ever been given?
Yeah. I was saying from a guy named Chris Jones who says we would never complete our movie. That was the worst piece of advice he gave us. He said, "Get more money." He said, "Don't do it."
Ah,
And we like, okay, and then we did
eh,
it. So
yay! So
yeah.
that guy sucks. Whoever you are, you suck. All right, or wherever you are, rather. Okay, what's your favorite excuse when you're late?
My favorite excuse when I'm late. Um, I woke up late. That was it.
Oh, that's a lame excuse.
No, it is, isn't it? That's always my excuse. I woke up late. Sorry.
Oh, Melvin deeply says, "Same. I feel out of place when I'm among civilized people."
Well, I wouldn't call them civilized. They're just on a different level, aren't they? So,
Yeah. All right. What's the most annoying question you've ever been asked?
um, I don't know. The annoying question. Um, the annoying question is, what do you look like without your glasses? I hate that. And then they expect you to take your glasses off. I'm like, no, no, I won't do that.
It's like that's rude.
Yeah, it's very rude.
What's your favorite movie and why? Oh my gosh.
Sorry, my favorite movie of all time is E.T. And the
Uh-huh.
reason why I like it so much because I think it's close to a 10.
Hmm.
It's kind of like an 8 and a 9 in my Richter scale. And it's so well directed, so well performed, so well. The whole thing is just incredible as far as I'm concerned. Very simple as well. I like simple movies. So there you go.
Okay, 18. And I lost count. I'm a bad girl. I think this is the seventh.
Okay.
If it's one too many, well, you'll get over. Oh, we already did that one. Let's see. What fictional place would you most like to go and why?
Fictional place. Uh, do you know what? I'd love to go on the Death Star. just to walk around, meet some of the stormtroopers and have tea with them or something. That'd be cool.
Tea with the
Yeah, that'd be cool.
All right.
That'd be fun.
Oh, Shield All Dragon's excuses.
Yeah,
Whatever the reason I was late for. Melvin Deeply is usually on
mm,
time. Traffic,
yeah,
road construction is fine. Yes, that's the one I
yeah.
use. Cam cam.
Right, that one. I don't drive, so I can't use that excuse. There you
Yeah, there you are.
go.
Or yeah, traffic light. Oh, my
Mm,
goodness. Well, all right. Well, we're going to wrap up this party. Thank you, Melvin Deeply, Shield Wallow Dragons. We had Cam Crash Courses come in. Hello. And let me see. Mr. Brown, Alliance Vex, Electronica Gaming, Archer Colin, Matt, not Brian. And I think I got most of them. If I forgot anyone, it is not intentional. It is because the skipping chat and all that fun stuff. But thank you for being here, and thank you, Ian the Mega Geek, for um, sharing these stories. I love it. And
oh,
if
thank you for having me.
yeah, well, where can we find you in the next week or so?
No, I mean, I'm on Twitter. I'm on. I obviously got the Rebecca Gold channel and stuff like that. I don't really put out any content. I mean, I'm on Brown's channel. I'm on Dan's channel on Thursday talking about Doctor Who. Yeah, I mean that's mostly where I am. Sometimes I'm on Little Platoon's channel as well. He's really good, and the movie cynic, he's really good as well. And I love talking to those guys. They're great. And Brown as well. He's cool. And Dan as well. Could give a shout out to Dan. He's like
There
one
we
of
go.
my mates. So there you go.
Yay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, excellent. And you'll find me here in Miss Martin Muses. I have some biographies of fantasy authors. The next one's going to be Raymond Feist, and we're going to be continuing with our book club stream on Saturday morning. We are starting Magician Master. If you have not read that, go ahead and give it a go. It's a really good book, and read along with us. Friday night, our next pub, I won't tell you what the pub is, but it will be, it is the choice of Mando. Is that her full name? I think it is. Yeah. I feel terrible. My brain just went Untamed Mando. Untamed Mando.
Mm,
Untamed Mando will be here at 7:00, and we will be talking about C.S. Lewis. So
cool.
a good night, everyone. Have a
Night.
great day. Have a great day, and be certain to only watch well-directed movies.